So I really have no idea how to start something like this, and I'm still very new to creating YouTube, so I hope you can bear with me. Essentially what I am doing is starting a new series, and I'm going to document a little bit of my journey into sewing. And I've always been really into crafting and creating my own outfits and creating my own projects. It was something that my mom really got me into because growing up, we didn't really have a lot of money. So my mom actually made a lot of my clothes for me when I was a kid, and she used to make some really immaculate Halloween costumes for me. And I remember one year she made me this incredibly detailed pink princess gown, and it had it had everything, and it was just absolutely beautiful. And I was so sad when I outgrew it. And but that was one example. I am kind of taking some notes from her book, literally, and I have a sewing machine.
Also sew dresses.
Sew dresses?
I've been using it for a little bit, but I haven't been really consistent with it. And my first sewing project that I ever did was actually many, many years ago. And I had made this really cool dress for my daughter. And it was a Dr. Seuss themed Christmas dress. And it was very whimsical. It was very Cindy Lou Who kind of style. And I was very, very proud of it. But I really hadn't picked up my sewing machine since then, even though I took classes in high school and stuff on sewing. And it was part of the home ec thing because that was a really important skill to learn.
That's the ec of home ec.
Between that and my mom, I've always wanted to get back into it. So essentially that's what I'm doing right now. And because a lot of my cosplays are much more in the fantasy sort of genre, more into cottagecore and fairycore, I've always been into the pirate stuff and Ren Fair stuff in general. But I've always wanted to get into cottagecore and creating bodices and things because bodices and stays are very, very expensive. $300 on up for a single piece. And that's not including the chemise that goes underneath of it or the dress or anything else.
Expensive ones.
So I want to start making my own, and especially stuff that is much more of what I kind of like. The stuff that I have in my head that I want to see brought to life, it doesn't exist out there. And because I had such a good experience with creating my Tinkerbell costume, and even though I didn't sew that one personally, it was a lot of gluing, a lot of painting and bedazzling and things like that, I really want to get into sort of other stuff. So this is the project that I'm working on right now. This is from Rabbit and Hat, and it's a actual bodice or corset, whatever you want to call it. Actually, Renaissance bodice. There we go. Renaissance bodice. And I love this company because they have both printable stuff, which is a lot of the stuff that you get on Etsy, but this one here in particular actually comes with the pattern itself, and I'm very excited about that because I don't have to sit and tape stuff together to try to make it work. I've sewn a couple of other things in the past already. One was my Court of Nightmares Farrah's dress, and I actually won Best Halloween Costume, Sexiest Halloween Costume for that whole outfit because I also made the necklace and the belt and everything that went with it, and it just looked fabulous. That was I had no pattern whatsoever when I was doing it. It was just pinning it or taping it really to my mannequin because I didn't have an actual sewing form. I just had a plastic mannequin. And so I had taped everything together and then pinned it the best that I could. It was completely going rogue, had no idea what I was doing, but it came out looking really, really good. A couple things I had to undo and then redo, but anyway, it came out looking really great. So I was really oh, I can do this. This is something maybe I can actually do. And I've been really inspired by a lot of other amazing creators out there who are making their own outfits. And now I was recently invited to the Paravel Ball that is taking place in Los Angeles in November, and I'm going to be making my entire fairy ball gown for that one. Between all of that stuff, I'm okay, I can do this. I'm making the commitment right now that I'm going to get into sewing and I'm going to make this stuff the way that I want it. So yeah, this is one that I'm working on right now, and I'm going to try a couple of different ones, different ways of doing it. I'm not sure if I'm doing this right. I had to go into Joann's and to the craft store and ask them okay, what is the difference between 100% cotton canvas and all of these different thicknesses of canvas and duck canvas or duct canvas, canvas duct, whatever you call it. I had no idea what I was doing. And so she kind of looked at me a little bit weird at first. And then she was okay, let's go through this.
I'm an idiot.
And I was really, really happy that she was so kind. And so this is 100% canvas. This is 100% canvas one. And then I read on the pattern itself, on the instructions, it said that I needed an interlining. And I had no idea what interlining was. I thought it was this stuff here, I thought they were talking about interfacing, because I know it does kind of the same thing that the interlining is supposed to do for this, I think.
I'm confused. Are you confused? Pretty confused.
Essentially, it's giving it structure. It's making it thicker, so you're creating more layers to give it more structure. There's also boning that is going to go in this, so I have my plastic boning, which I have to cut out, and I know I could have probably bought it in strips, but again, we're just going to see what happens. So this is the why do I keep calling it interference? Interfacing. It's interfacing. You have to iron this on, and it makes it stiff. There you go. Heat it up and it gets stiff. So this is my test pieces. So I cut out some of the remnants from when I cut these pieces out here. And there's not too many pieces, surprisingly. But this is the piece where I have interference on the inside to make it stiff. And it's like, this one, my only issue is that but I really want it to be 100% cotton. But I like the way this feels. It's so much stiffer. Now this is the one I bought muslin. So it's 100% cotton muslin. It's a little bit thinner. And this goes on the inside. So it becomes like this, and then I'll have my boning and everything else to give it like superstructure. But I'm to see like what the difference is between them. If this one ends up being fine and whatever, but I do like the stiffness of this, because I feel like it's just gonna I just feel like it's gonna sit on me better, and it may last longer.
You need to get your mind out of these gutters.
I get so wrinkly and things like that, but again, I may do a couple different versions of it. I bought more than enough fabric because I always overbuy my fabric, much to my partner's dismay, because I have a lot of fabric floating around the house right now for projects that have yet to see the light of day. Anyway, so I have my pieces. I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna work on it. I don't know if it's gonna be all that exciting, but I will take you on the journey with me from basically where I am right now, where all my pieces are cut out, except for my interface. Why is this so hard for me to remember? It's interfacing, not interference. Interfacing. I'm going to cut that part out next, and I have to iron it on. So once it's on for good. So I have to make sure that I'm actually committed to using the interfacing. And yeah, so here we go. Of needless debate, I decided to follow my mom's advice, which is no different than when you were working with a recipe. When you're doing something for the first time, you follow the recipe exactly as it is stated before you go screw with it. So I'm going to do that, and I'm just going to stick with my interlining being this muslin, and we're going to hope for the best. Everything is pinned, I think. Yay. And now we are going to start actually sewing. Running a test. Gotta do a test run. Follow the instructions. Inch from the top to the bottom down the center, and move your needle 3/8 of an inch. You will put in another stitch to create your boning channel. Okay. I guess if I screw up, it's not that big of a piece. It's pretty good to me. All right, I'm just gonna do that like 500 more times. Okay, so update on the progress on the bodice. I actually finished it last night, and I am really bummed I didn't get to record a lot of the actual sewing process because it was just so ridiculously noisy. We have neighbors that are moving in right now, and it was just like, I'm not even gonna try. Anyway, so I went ahead and I finished it off. I got done with it about 9:30 or so last night, and I was really, really excited. I was really, really proud. I had a couple of fumbles with it, which totally happens, and I'm well aware of that. I knew that this was going to be a sample project. This was not going to be like, I knew this wasn't going to come out perfect. It's like your first, pancake. Your first pancake, you never count because it always comes out bad. So this is the modesty panel that actually fits like right here. And this is the third one. I went through 2 already. The first one, my sewing machine got jammed, so I couldn't use that one because it got all messed up. And then the second one, I ran out of thread on my bobbin like halfway through it. And I was like, oh my God. So this is the third one, and I had to cut 3 of these. So I am like,
Just done.
yeah. Anyway, so third one, and it has the boning and everything in it, and it came out looking pretty good. I'm a little bit miffed at myself that I ended up using black thread on this on a white bias tape. So anything that is imperfect, you totally see, like it's screaming at me in the face, and I don't like that. So anyway, modesty panel came out pretty good. The rest of it came out really good too. I'm proud of it. There's definitely a lot of kind of missteps and things like that, but I mean, it came out looking halfway decent. The issue with it, number one, the bias tape. Bias tape and me don't get along at all, and I have a lot to learn when it comes to working with bias tape. I just really struggle with keeping it in line and keeping it in place. So I think this time I'm gonna use a lot of pins for the next one to try to keep it in place and work with it a little bit better. I'm really glad that I used the interlining, the muslin for the interlining instead of ironing it, because I screwed up so many times that it would have really been awful had I had to also re-iron 50 times. So yeah, anyway, I got everything done. It's too big. So I went based on what the packaging said for my size, and I measured myself and everything, and I thought I was a medium. So I went ahead and bought the medium size. I got done with everything and put it on and was like, oh shit, it's too big. So yeah, this one does not fit me, but it is a really good starter piece, and I'm pretty proud of like finishing it. I went from start to finish with it, and I'm very happy that I did that. I really like the colors. I like everything else about it. It just doesn't fit quite right. So I'm going to start all over again with all of the adjustments and everything else, and with a size small pattern, and hope for the best that this time it fits me. And yeah, so I am off to sew all over again. Okay, I finally have a completed bodice. I am so happy with this. So I definitely deviated a little bit from some of the stuff in terms of the instructions of how the pattern was originally written out. So silly little things like what made sense to me about how to sort of put it together, especially the straps and stuff like that. And there was no indication that you should use pins to put your bias tape on. So bias tape is this stuff here, the white piece. The bias tape and I do not get along at all. I hate bias tape, but it has a great look when you sew it on correctly. So I kept at it, and I just took my time. I was very, very slow, very, very meticulous about it. And I finally did it. So it came out looking great. Everything about this is just, I'm so happy with it. I'm very proud right now. I'll pat myself on the back because I really didn't think I was gonna be able to do this. And it came out looking so nice. Now I will say this, I have not yet finished the modesty panel that actually goes straight down the front, so it covers up any of these openings here that is created by the lace. I want to go ahead and finish that just to see how like everything looks together, and then it's a little bit more historically accurate, I think, too. But for the most part, this here, the way it looks and the way it sits is just perfect. And yeah, it feels very sturdy. It feels very like structured. I'm proud of myself. I am really proud. I feel like I can actually do this and create more looks that are a little bit more unique and are unique, and stuff that definitely has more of my flair and sort of my creativity added to it, rather than just doing store-bought stuff. So yeah, my advice is if you are nervous about making your own CottageCore outfits or bodices, corsets, stays, any of that stuff. Don't be nervous, just take it slow, look for beginner ones. This is definitely like a beginner level corset, so if I can do it, I think just about anybody can. So until the next sewing project, thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe so that you can keep up to date with all of my projects as well as my fails. And what am I gonna call this thing?